Introduction. A fitting introduction. The Abhidhamma consists of 7 treatises, namely Dhamma Sangani, Vibhanga, Dhatu Kata, Pugala Panyati, Katuwata, Yamaka, and Patana. The subject matter of the Abhidhamma is the 4 ultimate realities, or paramatthas, and the causal relations between them. The treatment of the subject matter is highly technical and remarkably systematic, making use of purely philosophical terms true in the absolute sense. If one can patiently study the treatises on Abhidhamma, one cannot but admire the profound wisdom and the penetrative insight of Lord Buddha. But it is not easy to study Abhidhamma on one's own effort, as one may easily get lost in the wilderness of abstract terms and strange methodology. There is, however, a well-known treatise called Abhidhamma Sangaha, which is the most fitting introduction to Abhidhamma. This treatise, written by Venerable Anuruddha Thera, an Indian monk of Kanchipura, summarizes all the important points of Abhidhamma very systematically. The treatise, originally written in Pali, has been translated into several languages. In Myanmar, the subject matter of this treatise is included in the course of study for novices and monks, and is also used as the course of Abhidhamma examination held every year throughout Myanmar by the Ministry of Religious Affairs. The present book, entitled The Essence of Buddha Abhidhamma, further elaborates the subject matter presented in Abhidhamma Sangaha in a simple and systematic manner, with certain collaboration with scientific views and practical aspects. It is written more or less in the form which is used by the author as lecture guides in conducting Abhidhamma courses. The courses proved to be very successful, so the reader will find this book to be thoroughly clarified and interesting to study the essential facts of Abhidhamma. Abhidhamma is really the golden knowledge which will help one to discard wrong views and to acquire the right view for one's total liberation from all miseries. 2 kinds of realities. Conventional realities or concepts, panyatis. All living beings, inanimate things, and the names given to them are conventional realities. Living beings and inanimate things seem to really exist according to our sense perception. We can see them and even touch them. We gave names to them so that we can refer to them in everyday communication. When we use those names, such as man, woman, I, you, he, she, dog, cat, house, table, tree, in conversation, we feel sure that the objects which the names refer to really exist. However, these objects do not exist by their own right as irreducible realities. Their mode of being is conceptual, not actual. They are products of mental construction, not realities existing by reason of their own intrinsic nature. When they are examined analytically with wisdom, they disappear. For example, table is not a reality. It does not exist really because when the pieces of wood in the table are taken apart, the table disappears. Similarly, a house is not a reality, and it does not really exist, for it disappears when the roof and the walls are taken apart. Again, man, woman, dog, cat do not really exist, for they disappear when they are divided into head hairs, body hairs, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, blood, bones, heart, liver, lungs, intestines, etc. These components, in turn, do not really exist, because they turn into ashes when they are incinerated. Also, names do not really exist by reason of their own intrinsic nature, for a person can choose any name he likes, and a particular thing has been given different names in different languages. So, living beings, inanimate things, and their names are conventional realities or concepts, panyatis. They seem to exist, but they do not really exist, by their own right as irreducible or unchangeable realities. There is an interesting episode in the Buddhist chronicles between 2 wise persons, King Milinda, and the Arahant, Venerable Nagasena. The king asked, "By what name shall I know you, sir?" Venerable Nagasena answered, "My companions call me Nagasena, but the name and the person whom the name refers to do not really exist." The king commented, "If Nagasena and the person do not exist, to whom do people offer alms, and who receive these offerings? Since you receive them, you really exist. Why did you tell a lie in spite of your high nobility?" Venerable Nagasena inquired, "Your Majesty, did you come to this monastery on foot or by chariot?" The king replied, "I came by chariot." Venerable Nagasena inquired further, "Well then, please show me your chariot. Is the horse the chariot? Is the wheel the chariot? Is the axle the chariot? Is the carriage the chariot?" The king answered no to all these questions. Venerable Nagasena remarked, "Is there a chariot besides the horse, the wheel, the axle, the carriage, etc.?" The king again said no. Venerable Nagasena commented, "Your Majesty, you said you came here by chariot, yet you could not show me the chariot. Why did you tell a lie in spite of your high honor?" The king consented. "There is no chariot beside the horse, the wheels, the axle, and the carriage. Just a combination of these things has been named the chariot." Venerable Nagasena remarked, "Very well, Your Majesty. You should understand Nagasena as you understood the chariot." Ultimate realities, Paramattas. Ultimate realities, in contrast to conventional realities, are things that really exist by reason of their own intrinsic nature. These are the Dhammas, the final, irreducible components of existence, the ultimate entities which result from a correctly performed analysis of all living beings and inanimate things. Ultimate realities are the ultimate components of living beings and inanimate things. They really exist, but they cannot be seen. The ultimate realities which permit no further analysis are called paramattas. This word is derived from parama, which equals ultimate, final, and atta, which equals reality. So, by ultimate reality, we mean something which cannot be changed into simpler things or divided into other things. It can neither be created nor destroyed by man. It really exists in nature, and it holds on its characteristic till it perishes. It can stand the test of investigation by any method about its reality and real existence. Abhidhamma describes 4 classes of ultimate realities. Consciousness, or Citta. It is the consciousness of a sense object, or the awareness of the sense object. All sentient beings, including small insects like ants, possess consciousness, since they are aware of sense objects. Visible objects, sound, odor, taste, intangible objects. Citta, Chaita, Chittupada, Mana, Mano, Vijnana are synonymous. 2. Mental factors, or Cittasikas. Mental factors are concomitants of consciousness. They arise together and dissolve together with consciousness. They depend on consciousness for the arising, assist consciousness in the total act of cognition of each sense object, and influence consciousness in several ways. There are 52 kinds of mental factors. What we call mind is a combination of consciousness and mental factors. There are 121 possible combinations of consciousness and mental factors that represent various mental states. Neither consciousness nor mental factors can arise independently. Consciousness and mental factors are collectively called mentality, or nama. 6 important mental factors are described below. Lobha, which means greed, craving, or attachment. Dosa, which means anger, hatred, or ill will. Moha, which means ignorance or delusion. Alobha, which means greedlessness, non-attachment, generosity. Adosa, which means hatelessness, goodwill, tolerance, loving kindness. And amoha, which means wisdom or knowledge. The first 3, greed, anger, ignorance, are immoral roots. The roots of immoral minds are the main causes of all evil actions and suffering in the world. The next three, greedlessness, hatelessness, wisdom, are moral roots, the roots of moral, beautiful minds, and the main causes of all good actions and happiness in the world. Where are we? Materiality, or rupa. It is defined as that which changes form, color, or state owing to adverse or opposite physical conditions such as coldness and hotness. Abhidhamma enumerates 28 types of materiality, which comprise the 4 primary elements and 24 types of derived materiality. The 4 primary elements are the element of solidity, or patavi, with the characteristic of hardness and softness, the element of liquidity, or apo, with the characteristic of cohesiveness and fluidity, the element of heat, or tejo, with the characteristic of hotness and coldness, and the element of motion, or vayu, with the characteristic of pushing and supporting. They are just like energy without form and shape. Matter and energy are interconvertible and so identical. The 28 types of materiality correspond to all essential matter and energy known in science. Since science knows only about matter and energy and is ignorant of the mind, it can explain only material phenomena, whereas Abhidhamma can explain all psychophysical phenomena in detail. This is the reason why the great scientist Albert Einstein said, "Science is blind without religion, and religion is lame without science." Buddhism is neither lame nor blind, however, for Albert Einstein also added the statement, "If there is any religion that would cope with modern scientific needs, it would be Buddhism." He also said that Buddhism would be the future cosmic religion. Nibbana, eternal peace and unique bliss. It is the eternal peace and unique bliss which is realized when the causes of all suffering and the worldly fires of greed, anger, and delusion are totally eradicated. Nibbana is supramundane. It is beyond the sphere of mentality and materiality, which is the world of suffering. Nibbana is realized by the knowledge of the fourfold path, wisdom, and the fourfold fruition wisdom. It can be realized in this very life if one can successfully practice the threefold noble training of morality, concentration, and wisdom that represents the noble eightfold path. Nibbana always exists naturally, but we cannot see it because our mind is blinded by ignorance, greed, and anger, called defilements, kilesa, which defile and burn the mind. It is like the moon on the full moon day. Though the moon surely exists in the sky, we cannot see it when it is covered by thick clouds. When the clouds are blown away by strong winds, the moon becomes visible immediately. Similarly, we cannot see Nibbana because we are blinded by defilements. When all defilements are totally eradicated by the fourfold path wisdom, Nibbana becomes clearly visible. 2 kinds of truth. Conventional truth, samutti sakka. This truth takes conventional realities to really exist and speaks in terms of conventional realities. Any speech or expression using the names of living beings and inanimate things to mean as they are conventionally accepted without any intention of lying is called conventional truth. In our daily life, we use conventional names or vocabularies to express what we want to say. We accept conventional truth, and we take man, woman, father, mother, son, daughter, teacher, pupil, upright person, wicked person, I, you, it, to really exist. So if a man kills another man or steals others' property, it is a crime. If parents do not bring up their children properly, it is a breach of parents' duty. If sons and daughters do not look after their aged parents, it is a breach of the duty of sons and daughters. So we must accept and respect conventional truths in our daily life. We must respect our parents, teachers, and elders. We must develop loving kindness, compassion, and sympathetic joy towards all living beings. We must not neglect them, but respect them, as every living being deserves due respect. In science, too, though only electrons, protons, neutrons, and energy exist in the ultimate sense, we cannot deny and neglect the existence of atoms and molecules formed by the combinations of subatomic particles, as well as the existence of cells, organs, living beings, and inanimate things formed by the combination of atoms and molecules. But in explaining the nature of all things and all phenomena, we have to consider the characteristic of the ultimate fundamental entities called ultimate realities, for these will help us to understand the nature of all things and all phenomena. Ultimate truth, paramatta satcha. It takes conventional realities not to exist in the ultimate sense, and regards only ultimate realities to exist in the ultimate sense. Speaking in terms of ultimate realities is ultimate truth. To say that a man, a woman, I, and you exist is true according to conventional truth, but wrong according to ultimate truth. To say that only consciousness, mental factors, and materiality exist in the whole universe is true according to ultimate truth. Any principle in natural law which does not change on account of time and occasion, and which always remains true, is the ultimate truth. The teachings of the Buddha which deal with natural phenomena, such as the law of consciousness, Citta niyana, the law of kama, kama niyama, the doctrine of dependent origination, paticca samuppada, the Four Noble Truths, Ariya Satyas, etc., are ultimate truths. Elusive world and real world. Ordinary human beings with a lot of defilements are called worldlings, putujanas. As worldlings, our minds are blinded by defilements, or kilesas, and we cannot see the true nature of sense objects. So we see living beings and inanimate things to really exist, and we regard them to be permanent and pleasant, persons and things, beautiful and desirable. When pleasant sense objects come in contact with the sense organs, the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, and the body, pleasant feelings arise. We enjoy these feelings with joy and happiness. We even think that enjoying sensual pleasure is the real happiness in life. So we work hard throughout our lives to get much money and enjoy sensual pleasure as much as possible. We are not aware, however, that sensual pleasure is fleeting and transient. It perishes soon after it arises, leaving behind hunger, thirst, and hankering for more enjoyment. So sensual pleasure is a form of suffering, designated by the Buddha as suffering due to change of conditions, viparinama dukkha. Romeo and Juliet in Shakespeare's play were very happy when they fell in love, and they thought love is a many splendid thing. But when they were separated by their parents, they were very unhappy, and they committed suicide. Many heartbroken lovers committed suicide. Also, many billionaires committed suicide during economic depression because they lost many millions of dollars overnight when the prices of stocks and shares went down, and they were attached to their money by greed. Actually, it is greed, not us, which craves for sensual pleasure. And when the desire or craving of greed is gratified, we feel happy with the illusion that we get what we want. But greed never gives away its characteristic of craving. The more it gets, the more it craves for. So we shall never be really happy, as ungratified desire means suffering. Besides, we enjoy sensual pleasure with immoral minds rooted in greed, or lobha, and ignorance, or moha, which are the hottest fires, and defilements, or kilesas, and the main causes of all suffering in the world. They create the elusive world and enjoyment of sensual pleasure, and they will send us to woeful abodes after death. In reality, all living beings are made up of consciousness, citta, mental factors, cittasikas, and materiality, or rupa. Inanimate things are made up of materiality only. All these ultimate realities are formless, shapeless, and they are rising and perishing very rapidly and incessantly. So they are really impermanent, or anicca. What is not permanent is unsatisfactory, and to be tortured incessantly by the dissolution of mentality, consciousness, and mental factors, and materiality really amounts to suffering, or dukkha. Moreover, as mentality and materiality, or namarupa, have no form and no shape, and they arise and perish extremely rapidly and incessantly, no person, no self, no soul, no ego, no jiva, no atta, no creator, no permanent entity really exists. This phenomenon is called not self, or anatta. Furthermore, all living beings and inanimate things are neither beautiful nor desirable, for they do not exist in the ultimate sense. If we divide a beautiful lady like Miss Universe into head hairs, body hairs, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, blood, bones, heart, liver, lungs, intestines, pus, blood, feces, urine, etc., and examine each part carefully, we shall find no part to be beautiful, but all parts to be repulsive and disgusting. The saying that beauty is skin deep is correct. If we peel off the skin of Miss Universe, it will amount to just a handful, smeared with blood and totally disgusting. No gentleman will like to accept it. The remaining body will be equally disgusting as a de-skinned lamb carcass in a butcher's shop. Thus, all living beings and inanimate things have the characteristics of impermanence, or anicca, suffering, or dukkha, not self, or anatta, and disgusting, or asubha. This is the true nature of the real world we live in. We can see the world like this if our mind is pure and free from defilements. This is the reason why the Buddha exhorted his disciples to develop the right mental concentration to see things as they really are. The right concentration, as mentioned in Mahasatipatthana Sutta, is the concentration associated with the 4 Rupavachara jhanas, which can be developed by undertaking the meditation on mindfulness of breathing, anapanasati, correctly. In the real world, there are no living beings, no sense objects, no beautiful forms to be craved for or attached to. There are only formless ultimate realities, arising and perishing very rapidly, under the universal law of cause and effect. If we are not attached to anything, we are free from grief, worry, fear, and sense desire. So we can live very happily. From craving springs grief, from craving springs fear. For him who is wholly free from craving, there is no grief, much less fear. Dhammapada 2:16. But, as we are blinded by ignorance, our worldly outlook is just upside down. We see the sense objects around us to be permanent, or nicca, pleasant, or sukha, self or person, atta, and beautiful, or subha. So we crave for them, and get attached to them. From craving and attachment springs grief, worry, fear, and despair. So we live in the elusive world, enjoying sensual pleasure. We do not know that sensual pleasure is mean and low, because we enjoy it with immoral minds, and we are being burnt by the worst worldly fires of greed, anger, and ignorance. It is like the moths plunging into fire, and we shall be born in the woeful abodes after death. If we can make wise reflection, yoniso manasikara, moral minds will arise, and our actions and speeches will be blameless, so we can live happily without stress and strain. To make wise reflection, the true nature of sense objects with respect to impermanence, suffering, not self, and repulsiveness must be clearly understood and reflected often. Venerable Ka Siti Sayadaw, Abhidhammar Maharuta Guru, gave the following advice. Seeing and knowing just conventional realities or concepts gives one the wrong view and the wrong knowledge. Seeing and knowing ultimate realities gives one the right view and the right knowledge. Concepts do not really exist. Only ultimate realities really exist. Speak in terms of concepts with common vocabularies, but know in terms of ultimate realities. The purpose of the ultimate analysis. To see things as they really are is the cherished goal of all lovers of truth, including philosophers and scientists. When one cannot see the true nature of things, one sees the distorted picture and maintains the wrong view about them. One basic wrong view which has plagued men for eons is personality belief, Sakaya Ditti. interpreting the combination of body and mind as an individual or I or atta. Because of this personality belief, everyone wants to be a very important person or VIP, wants to pile up possessions for the benefit of I, and behaves in a very selfish way. In fact, all sorts of troubles and miseries spring up from this wrong view. Seeing others as a person, a man, a woman, an individual, etc., is also personality belief. Sakkaya Ditthi gives rise to other wrong views, which are uncountable in the world today. The dreadful thing about personality belief is that it can couple with bad karma, throw one down to the woeful abodes again and again. According to the Buddhist teaching, to get rid of personality belief is most important and most urgent. It is as urgent as putting out the fire on one's head when one's head is on fire, and as removing the spear and treating the wound on one's chest when the chest is impaled by a spear. The study of Abhidhamma furnishes one with the right view that I or atta does not exist, and what really exists in man are consciousness, mental factors, and materiality arising and perishing very rapidly. Understanding the mental states can help one to control one's temperament and to avoid unwholesome mental states, thus reducing mental tension and curing many mental diseases. When one understands that the volition, or cetana, that directs one's action, speech, and thought bears karmic properties which cause rebirth and shape the destiny of beings, one becomes mindful to avoid unwholesome volitions and unwholesome actions. Furthermore, when one understands the causal relations described in Abhidhamma, one can get rid of all wrong views and develop the right view, understanding correctly what is going on in the world. When one decides to follow the Noble Eightfold Path to free oneself from all miseries, one begins with the right view and develops morality, or sila, concentration, or samadhi, and wisdom, or panya, step by step. In so doing, one has to undertake tranquility, or samatha meditation, and insight, or vipassana meditation, and try to observe how all the phenomena described in Abhidhamma really take place. So the ultimate analysis on Abhidhamma is not for the pleasure of reading, nor for the sake of knowledge alone. It is also to be scrutinized by the concentrated mind-eye in order to develop insight wisdom, leading to the path wisdom and its fruition wisdom, and to eternal peace and unique happiness called nibbana. Mind creates miseries and happiness. All mental phenomena have mind as their forerunner. They have mind as their chief. They are mind-made. If one thinks, speaks, or acts with an evil mind, misery follows him, just as the wheel follows the hoofs of the oxen that draws the cart. If one thinks, speaks, or acts with a pure mind, happiness follows him, like his shadow that never leaves him. Dhammapada, verses 1 and 2.
Thank you.